Looks like the clown show continues to go on in the Indiana Fever organization led by Amber Cox, clown show, Kelly Krauskopf, clown show, and the bozo of all bozos, head coach Stephanie White, who's just, all of them, they are just sabotaging Caitlin Clark's career. It looks like GM Andrew Cox fires off on Caitlin Clark fans on social media and starts blocking them as well. This is an immature, nasty organization. Caitlin Clark and her agent Aaron Kane need to demand a trade immediately. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel.
Something is seriously wrong inside the Indiana Fever organization. Not wrong in the way a rebuilding team goes through growing pains. Wrong in the way that makes you stop and ask whether the people in charge actually want to win. The events of the past few weeks have peeled back the curtain on what may be the most dysfunctional situation in professional basketball right now. Trade rumors are swirling. Fans are furious. And the front office is doing the one thing you should never do when you're under a microscope. They are making it worse.
Organization, Caitlin Clark and her agent Aaron Kane need to demand a trade immediately. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated. Let's get right into things. So we all watched the travesty that took place last night, and Stephanie White trying to crash out on Caitlin Clark, Raven Johnson fouling out in 9 minutes. I mean, it just was a complete joke by Stephanie White. I think she exposed herself. I think she exposed the fact that she's not a good coach at all, and she needs to be fired. And if you don't want to fire her,
before we get into all of it, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. This channel covers the stories that actually matter in women's basketball. And trust me, you do not want to miss what is coming. Let's start with what everyone saw on the court, because that is where this whole thing unraveled in real time. Stephanie White walked into that game and decided to play 11 different players in the first quarter. 11. In 10 minutes of basketball. That is not a rotation, that is a fire drill. Every time a lineup started to find a rhythm, she pulled them. Every time momentum started to build, she broke it. Analysts watching the game were genuinely confused in real time, and the broadcast team had to keep explaining decisions that had no logical explanation.
They were playing 3 games in 4 nights. It was actually Portland playing its 3rd game in 4 nights. Steph played 11 players in the first quarter. Wrong coach. 11 players in the first quarter is an atrocity. It is a fireable offense. It is a fireable offense. You got Amber Cox blocking Jason Whitlock because he's being honest and keeping it real about what is going on with the Indiana Fever. They played 11 damn players in the first quarter. They put Ty Harris into the game before they subbed Caitlin Clark back in.
In professional basketball, continuity is everything. Your starters need reps together. Your second unit needs to develop chemistry. When you cycle 11 bodies through the floor in the opening 10 minutes, you are not managing a roster. You are throwing darts at a board blindfolded. Any coach at any level of the sport understands this. The fact that White doubled down on this strategy instead of adjusting tells you everything you need to know about the plan, or rather, the complete absence of one. What made it worse was the timing. The team was in a stretch where every game mattered. This was not a blowout where you empty the bench and give backup some experience. This was a competitive situation where your best players needed to be on the floor finding a groove. Instead, the game turned into an audition tape for players who had no business affecting the outcome. And the person who suffered most from that decision was the one player who should have been untouchable in those minutes. Caitlin Clark was pulled from the game, and in her place, Ty Harris checked in. Let that sink in for a second. Your franchise player, the reason your arena sells out, the reason your team is on national television, the reason anyone outside of Indiana is paying attention to your organization, was sitting on the bench while a backup guard was on the floor. This was not an injury situation. This was not a foul trouble situation. This was a coaching decision that defied every basic principle of how you manage a superstar. You do not ice out a generational talent in the middle of a tight game to get a reserve some minutes. You ride your best player. Every championship team in the history of professional basketball has understood this. The fact that White seems to operate by a completely different rulebook is not a quirk. It is a problem. And this was not a one-time thing. The pattern has been building. The questionable substitutions, the defensive schemes that leave Clark in impossible matchups, the rotations that seem designed to disrupt her rhythm rather than amplify it. It has started to look less like bad coaching and more like something deliberate. When a pattern repeats itself enough times, you stop calling it a coincidence. The frustration from Clark's camp has been simmering for a while. But after what happened in this game, that frustration appears to be turning into something much more serious. The word trade is now being used openly, and the people around Caitlin Clark are reportedly paying attention to what their options might look like going forward. While all of this was playing out on the court, something equally alarming was happening off of it.
Then he also had this today. He had a bunch of things to say. So we got Amber Cox blocking Caitlin Clark fans, right? Because she can't handle the heat, so she need to get her ass up out the kitchen and get up out of here. Get your ass up out the kitchen and get up out of here. She can't handle the heat and the pressure that's coming with this, and she's bewilting under the pressure. Okay, Jason Whitlock has had this to say. Check this out. Here it says, these four women put the alphabet mafia agenda above basketball business. Your personal life should be your personal life. It should not be your business agenda. Okay.
Amber Cox, the team's general manager, went on social media and started blocking fans, not responding to them, not addressing their concerns, blocking them. Fans who bought tickets, fans who watch every game, fans who have invested real time and money into this organization. The trigger for this meltdown was the way the team handled Caitlin Clark's late scratch from a recent game. The story of Clark being pulled from the lineup spread rapidly, and it became a much bigger news cycle than the team's went against a struggling Portland squad. Cox apparently took issue with this, which led to a series of defensive posts and a blocking spree that became its own story. Here is the thing. When your team's biggest star is a late scratch, that is going to be the headline. That is not bias. That is not disrespect to the rest of the roster. That is just the reality of having a player of Clark's caliber on your team.
Above basketball business. Your personal life should be your personal life. It should not be your business agenda. Okay? And these are the four who are responsible for the sabotage of Caitlin Clark. And you too. Lynn Dunn is a part of the sabotage of Caitlin Clark. Obviously, Bozo the Clown, Stephanie White is a part of the sabotage of Stephanie White's a part of the sabotage of Caitlin Clark. GM Amber Cox, I don't do no scouting. I can't put a roster together to save my life. Amber Cox is a part of the sabotage. And president of basketball operations.
A competent executive understands this and manages the narrative with professionalism. What Cox did instead was throw a public fit and treat the fan base like the enemy. That is not crisis management. That is a crisis. For a general manager to be in a social media war with the people who support the franchise is genuinely unprecedented. It signals one of two things. Either Cox is completely unprepared for the scrutiny that comes with running a high-profile organization, or she is so frustrated with the situation internally that she has started to crack under the pressure. Either way, it is not a good look for someone in her position. The silencing of critics. It did not stop with fans. Prominent voices in sports media started getting the same treatment. Jason Whitlock, one of the most recognized names in sports commentary, found himself on the receiving end of a block after he began publicly questioning the direction of the franchise.
The fix isn't in? Y'all don't believe the fix is in? Come on, man. A blind man could see this. This organization is a joke and a clown show. He also had this to say. If the Indiana Fever are run like a business, the decision to build around Caitlin Clark is easy. If the Indiana Fever are part of the WNBA's LGBTQ's agenda, then decisions are complicated and Caitlin Clark will be sacrificed. And it seems to be clear as day. It seems to be clear as day what they have decided.
And the moment that happened, the story got a whole lot bigger. When a general manager starts silencing journalists for asking legitimate questions, you have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Freedom of the press and open discourse are foundational to how professional sports operate. Teams get criticized. Executives get questioned. That is part of the deal. The response to criticism is supposed to be accountability and communication, not a block button. Whitlock's main argument was pointed and direct. He stated that the people running this organization are putting personal agendas ahead of basketball decisions, and that Caitlin Clark is being sacrificed as a result. Whether you agree with every part of that take or not, those are the kinds of questions that a general manager should be able to answer publicly. Instead, Cox chose to make him disappear from her timeline, which only gave his argument more credibility than it would have had otherwise. When you cannot defend your decisions out loud, you have already lost the argument. And blocking the people asking the questions does not make the questions go away. It just makes more people ask them.
You've done a disservice to the WNBA, and that's why Amber and Kelly has to leave also. See, y'all got this little weird relationship because y'all was all part of the organization years ago and whatnot, so y'all feel like y'all can do no wrong. Y'all are literally destroying the reason why people wanted to watch this motherfucker in the first place after 30 years.
Exactly.
This is crazy. You are a fucking horrible coach.
Typical.
That is, shout out to Angry Fan Sports. Y'all go over there and subscribe. They are destroying the very thing that got everybody paid, that got...
The four names at the center of this. There are four names that keep coming up in every conversation about what is happening inside the Fever organization. Lynn Dunn, Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf. These four individuals have overlapping histories, shared relationships, and enough internal loyalty to each other that the normal checks and balances within a front office appear to have completely broken down. What makes this dynamic so damaging is the accountability vacuum it creates. When everyone at the top came up together, protected each other, and owes each other something, nobody gets held responsible for failure. Bad coaching decisions do not get corrected because the coach is protected. Bad roster moves do not get addressed because the GM is insulated. And the one person who has no place in that inner circle, the player everyone came to see, ends up with no one in management actually fighting for her. Critics have described this group as operating more like a tight social circle than a professional leadership team. And the results on the court are reflecting exactly that. A team this talented, with a player of Clark's caliber running the offense, should not be this inconsistent. The talent is there. The audience is there. The infrastructure is not. And that starts at the top. This kind of protected leadership group is particularly dangerous because it is resistant to outside input. They're not going to listen to fans. They're not going to listen to journalists. And based on everything we have seen, they're not even going to listen to the market signals telling them that they are destroying something valuable. Building the wrong roster. One of the most damning indictments of Cox's tenure as general manager is the state of the roster she has assembled around Clark. Building around a generational point guard is one of the simplest assignments in basketball. You need shooters who can space the floor. You need athletic defenders who can cover for her on the other end. You need versatile pieces who make the game easier, not harder. What Indiana has instead is a collection of players who do not complement Clark's style of play, veterans who are not moving the needle competitively, and a defensive scheme that creates mismatches so severe that the broadcast team has to explain them in real time to a confused viewing audience. The decision to have the team switch every defensive assignment, 1 through 5, means that a 5'9" guard is regularly being asked to defend a center in the paint. This is not a philosophical choice with some advanced analytics behind it. This is a fundamental mismatch that any competent coaching staff would identify and fix immediately. White has not fixed it. She has doubled down on it. In every game, it creates the same problems that should have been addressed months ago. Roster construction and defensive philosophy are directly connected. If Cox is not bringing in players suited to the system, and White is not adjusting the system to fit the players she has, you end up exactly where Indiana is right now, talented on paper, broken in practice. Step back from the basketball for a second and look at this from a pure business perspective. Caitlin Clark is one of the most marketable athletes in the country right now. Her jersey sales, her impact on television ratings, her effect on attendance. The numbers tell a story that should make every decision inside that organization simple. You build around her. You protect her. You do everything in your power to put her in a position to succeed, because when she succeeds, everyone succeeds. The Indiana Fever had essentially won the lottery. A generational talent lands in your lap, brings a massive new audience to your sport, and gives your franchise a level of visibility it has never had before. Most organizations would spend every resource they have making sure that investment pays off. What Indianapolis has done instead is confusing to everyone watching from the outside. The irony of all ironies came when the team celebrated a win over a struggling Portland squad, only to turn around and get blown out by that same Portland team shortly after. The celebration was premature. The win was a fluke. And when Portland came back and handed them a humiliating loss, it exposed every flaw in the system that the coaches and front office have been trying to hide. There was nowhere to hide after that performance. It put every questionable decision under a spotlight that could not be turned off. The audience that Clark brought to the WNBA is not automatically going to stick around if the product on the court keeps disappointing them. Fans who were introduced to the sport through her are watching what happens to her just as closely as they are watching the game itself. And what they are seeing is not encouraging. The fan base at its limit. The Indiana Fever fan base has shown remarkable patience through all of this. They've shown up, they have watched, they have kept the faith that the organization would figure it out. But something shifted recently. The combination of the on-court decisions, the GM's social media meltdown, and the ongoing inconsistency has pushed a significant portion of the fan base to a breaking point. These are not casual observers venting into the void. These are people who buy tickets, who stream games, who wear the jersey, who have emotionally invested in this team specifically because of Caitlin Clark. When they see her being iced out of games, when they see the front office blocking people for asking reasonable questions, when they see a coaching staff making decisions that nobody can explain, they feel disrespected. And they're saying so loudly across every platform available to them. The organization's response to this has been to treat the fan base like the problem. Cox blocking fans on social media sent a message, whether she intended it to or not. It said that the concerns of the people who keep the lights on are not worth engaging with. That is a dangerous position for any franchise to take, but it is especially dangerous when your fan base is newly energized and paying closer attention than ever before. If you're counting on Caitlin Clark to grow your sport and your franchise, you have to understand that her fans come with her. You cannot have one without the other. Alienating the people who showed up specifically for her is not a strategy. It is a slow-motion disaster. What happens if nothing changes? The Indiana Fever are standing at a crossroads right now, and the choice they make in the coming weeks is going to define this franchise for years. They can acknowledge that something is broken, make the difficult personnel decisions that a real turnaround requires, and recommit to building the kind of organization that a player like Caitlin Clark deserves to be part of, where they can keep doing what they are doing, protecting the inner circle, silencing the critics, and making decisions that confuse everyone watching. The second option has a very predictable ending. Clark's camp is already paying attention to the trade conversation. The fan base is already turning its frustration into something louder. The media coverage is already framing this as a story about sabotage rather than a story about basketball. Every day that passes without meaningful change is another day that the damage compounds. Other organizations know how to manage superstar talent. You look at how other franchises treat their best players, and the contrast with what is happening in Indiana is stark. Those organizations do not pull their stars for unexplainable reasons. They do not build defensive schemes that put their best guards in impossible situations. They do not have their executives getting into public fights with journalists and fans. They understand that protecting and developing their star player is the entire job, and they do it. The WNBA as a whole has benefited enormously from the attention that Clark has brought to the sport. Ratings are up, attendance is up, sponsorship interest is at an all-time high. That entire wave exists in large part because of one player. The Indiana Fever have been the primary beneficiary of that wave, and right now they're doing everything in their power to wipe out on it. The clock is ticking on Stephanie White's tenure. The clock is ticking on the current front office's ability to hold this together. And the clock is ticking on the patience of a fan base that gave this organization something they did not earn, a second chance to matter. History does not look kindly on the organizations that had something legendary within their grasp and let ego, politics, and poor management throw it away. The Indiana Fever still have time to write a different story. But based on everything we have seen, the question is whether anyone inside that building actually wants to. If you have been watching this situation unfold and you have thoughts on where this goes next, drop them in the comments below. I want to hear what you think the Fever should do. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that button, ring the bell, and stay locked in because this story is far from over.